Alright, guys. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Shmoozing with Avi, episode 6. But today, I'm going to be schmoozing with none other than Avi. Because unfortunately, it is 2 hours until Monday. And I said I'd release an episode every Monday. But unfortunately, all three guests that I had planned for this week couldn't come. So, yeah, you're stuck with me this week. I'm going to preface this by saying this is going to be an incredibly boring episode. I don't know why you're still listening to this. There are literally 10 times better episodes, such as last week's episode, which was literally, we had Shannon Newsom, who was a Christian missionary who converted to Judaism and is now uncovering other Christian missionaries. Just incredible stuff. So, like, if you're going to listen to this, put that on your next playlist. And if you're going to stop listening to this, which I recommend because it's going to be incredibly boring, I would say turn on that episode now. You can obviously find it on all the usual things. But yeah, if we are going to do this, which I apologize in advance because, yeah, I doubt we're getting much over 20 minutes. But I'm going to hopefully give over a couple key concepts of that I try to live by and follow by, and they're kind of my ideological viewpoints. And also sort of how I got to where I am today. Because I'm currently sitting here in a suit jacket, in a nice white Chelsea tailor shirt, drinking my nice Robinson's hot cup of coffee, tea thing. But yeah, it's a bit, for those who don't really know me, this obviously seems very normal because this is all you've seen me as. For those who knew me prior to Yeshiva, this is still slightly weird. So I'm not going to act as if this is the craziest story ever, because it really isn't anything that crazy. But through this good old story, I'm hopefully going to give over, I guess, some basic ideas that will hopefully help you with whatever stage you are in life, with whatever stage you are in Judaism or religion, wherever you are. And yeah, okay. So let's take a little bit back. This is just, by the way, I want you to know this is probably the 14th time I'm recording this episode, just because, yeah, it's weird. I try to do it that all of my episodes is never really me talking. Like, I'm not a confident person in front of the camera, just because, like, I'm literally staring into the camera right now and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? Like, this seems a bit ridiculous. Like, I feel like I can hold a conversation and help other people give over their stories. So that's the kind of thing that I like doing. And I also sort of follow the thing that no one is here to hear me speak, which is, once again, I don't know how many minutes we are into this, but if you're still listening, I don't know why, but thank you, I guess. But yeah, so I kind of follow the part that no one really wants to hear me speaking, so I try to give over to everyone else and allow them to give over their story, because that's the whole point of having a platform, allowing others to be heard. But yeah, that's the little background of why I was feeling. I don't know where you're gonna understand. I'm gonna waffle this whole episode, and it's just gonna be like, just I don't even have a good metaphor for how terrible this is gonna be. I'm so like unable to comprehend that. This is going to be terrible. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Well, we're just going to get into it, and hopefully my words will actually come out and I will be able to articulate myself. There we go. We have a word. And yeah, so I'll explain from now. I am, as my madrich in yeshiva calls, a Harry. What is a Harry? A Harry is basically someone who grew up modern Orthodox, and then kind of flips out in yeshiva, and after that they try to basically be yeshivish or from, but like, basically you hear them in davening, you see all the way they're acting, they basically have no clue what they're doing. They're basically just an Amma Oretz in black and white. So that's how I like to classify myself. I'm an Amma Oretz and a black and white, but we're growing. So to get here, I've got to explain. Back growing up, I would say we grew up. My mum would, like, my whole life I've known great people. I've known, firstly, my mum, just an incredible woman, inspirational woman, and she worked for probably one of the greatest people I will ever claim to know, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs. It pains me to say, as a kid growing up, I never really could grasp that concept of what a gadol and what a great, incredible man he was. So looking back now, especially when I was doing that episode, I had these fond memories of him, but I never really used him. And like, obviously, you can't say used in the context of Rabbi Sachs, but I never had the ability to just have an intellectual conversation with him. Like, now I hope that I have some more understanding of the world to an extent, and there's so many questions that in my head only he could answer. Like, just looking through all of his old videos, you can find everything online. I think they're actually releasing like the new website. There's not a promotion, but I mean, check it out, where you can see all of his old stuff and all the transcripts, and you realize what an incredible intellectual man he was and how much he had to give over. And I just never utilized it because I wasn't interested at the time. I grew up, so my mum and Rabbi Sachs, those were like key figures in our life, and my father, who's a sofa. These are all in the religious bubble. But I myself, I followed along. I followed in high school. I was always in the lowest sets for all of the, or the lowest classes for all of the Jewish studies. I wasn't interested. That was just how it was. I wasn't off the derech. I wasn't necessarily on the derech. I kept Shabbos. I kept kosher. Why? I don't know. Just that is what we did. There's definitely a few key things in my life that stick out to me. For example, I want to thank whoever it was that instilled this in my head. I try to rack my brains every so often of who it was, but someone instilled in me Gamzu L'Tova. Like, it's always, everything's for the best. And throughout high school, throughout like the end of school, even like in the times that I wasn't so like from, every time something bad happened, there was always in the back of my head, Gamzu L'Tova. Like, everything's for the best. I don't know. And like sometimes I'd preach it to people, like whatever, it's for the best. I don't really know. And so that like stuck with me now. That's such a like huge part of who I am now, that I'm slightly understanding that literally everything has its purpose. Everything has its reason. Everything is for the best. And like, hopefully I'll be able to give you a few good stories for that. But like, that was one of the key things. A second key thing is Rabbi Diamond. It's funny, my family's going to listen to this and they'll be like, this is the weirdest story ever, but we had this, my dad basically had this rabbi come in, who was like we weren't very learned kids, me and my brother. My brother happens to be a lot more learned than I am and a lot more of a Talmud Chacham than I am, but we weren't so interested. So we had this rabbi coming in, and I remember one thing, he was like this Hasidic rabbi. I would like hide up in my room. Me and my brother would take turns hiding. It was ridiculous. My dad would like scream for us to come down. I would pretend like I couldn't hear him. It was like a whole shtick. But one of the things, and unfortunately he passed away very recently, and like I wish, looking back now, I could thank him. But one of the things that he instilled in me was just like, you never ever miss tefillin. Like, it's the biggest thing in the world. You always put on tefillin. Like, you can't miss a day. Like, it's one of the biggest things to not put on tefillin. And I don't know why that was the one thing that like really, really was hammered into me. And I think, unfortunately, there were a couple of days where I did miss putting on tefillin. But like, it was always in the back of my head. Like, what I'd do is just quickly wrap it around. I think quickly say the first bracha of Shema. Take them off. Maybe I'd do the Amida, like whatever it was. I'd run to school, and that was it. Like, it was just, I just knew I had to put on tefillin, and like, it was just one of the things. And I look later on in life when I was in yeshiva, and even now, like, there's a lot of people who that's still one of the things that they've got to work on and they're still growing in. And like, it was never even a question not to put them on, because it was still instilled in me. So that in itself was just a massive bracha, and for that, like, I'm sure Rabbi Diamond is getting all this chus for every time I put on tefillin, because he was the one who like happened into me. So already, even though I wasn't necessarily from to, that's a lie. I was from, and I like to classify myself as a Baal Teshuva, but I'm not a Bolshevik in the actual sense of the word. Like, I was always, I guess, keeping things, and I always knew it was wrong not to keep things, but I never knew really why. I never really had like a reason why. I guess maybe not to disappoint my parents. Here we go. I worked that thing out now. Probably just not to disappoint my parents. So put on tefillin, did all that, but like wasn't really interested. So I was in the lower sets for all of the Jewish studies school, classes, and then finally I think this is funny. This is a funny story. Me and my cousin often laugh about this, but finally I think in year 10, I believe it was, which is I guess grade 9 for the Americans. I was at this point in time, I was in an all-boys school. I was like, why the heck am I in an all-boys school? Like, I obviously want to be like, how lucky are these guys in the mixed school JFS that they get to like hang out with the girls the whole time? Like, it's just the best thing ever. Like, why would we stay in this school? Like, and from that moment on, we were set on the thing. We hated the school we were in. Like, that was the thing. And like, there were issues with friendships and this and that, all that shkach, whatever. But if you get down to the root of it, there were girls. Fair enough. We were boys. There were girls, and we wanted to go to this high school. So wherever it was, I was going to move that year. Then I didn't move, and then finally in year 11, or the end of year 11, I was able to move. So I moved to this school. Most of the people there, I would say, aren't really religious. To them, though, I was technically still the religious kid. I think that in itself is a huge part that I never even connected. That even though I myself wasn't like religious, so to say, I was still like the religious kid because I wore my kippah. I never like really thought to take off my kippah just because it felt uncomfortable. I knew I was a Jew. I never really took off. I remember there was like 1 or 2 times where I thought about it, but then I think this is where it really like hit down. And to take it into context in a little bit, but I remember we went on the Poland trip to Auschwitz, to Birkenau, to Majdanek. They change you. You go there, you see Jews were exterminated for simply being Jews. Hitler turned a religion into a race. Like, it was just the concept of it was just crazy. You can't really understand. Like, we were doing psychology of the Holocaust just now, and understanding how he convinced these doctors who take the Hippocratic Oath to commit the biggest atrocities in the world. Like, the Hippocratic Oath literally states in it that you'll do your utmost best to take care of people, to heal people, to help them, to allow them to live. And these doctors were like Eichmann, and maybe I've got the wrong doctor in my head right now, but all of these doctors, they were like committing these atrocities, like the twins. They were like skinning people alive, boiling it. Like, I'm not going to describe it. It's just you go to Auschwitz and you see all of that, and you're like, they were killed because they were Jew. Like, how does that make sense? Even the people who weren't like even religious to the side, they didn't even believe in a god. Like, if you look back at Poland 1930, it was thriving. Like, the Jews there were thriving, not as Jews. They were secular people. They were just business people, and they happened to be Jewish, but they had no real belief in a god or anything like that. They were Jewish, and they were exterminated for that, not because of their beliefs, but because of inherently what Hitler believed to be a disease in their blood. That was what he killed them for, and I think that really resonated with me. I remember being at a mass children's grave, and we told to message our parents. I look back at like the messages that I sent them, and now I cringe at them, but at the time I was like sobbing over these messages, because you're seeing all these families all these kids who didn't get a chance to ever speak to their parents again. They didn't get a chance to do anything with themselves, and it was painful. You don't really understand. You can't really fathom it, because you say 6 million Jews, you say 100,000 Jews, you say 10,000 kids. These are all big numbers. But when you're standing at their grave and you're being told that a great grandparent escaped this, and because of him, his great grandson is now there on our trip with us. Like, you see that in context. You see that that's an actual living person who went through these things, and like what a life they could have had. How many more people we could have been. That's going to impact you. And so it didn't necessarily. It wasn't that point that I was like, I'm religious. I keep everything. But I think that was the time that I got the Jewish identity. I think after that, like, I'd go clubbing. It is a part of my life, but I went clubbing. But I would always go clubbing with my kippah on. Like, I had no reason to take off because I was like, this is who I am. Like, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm actually proud of it. Like, I'm a Jew. This is what I do. I'd be whatever situation I was always wearing a couple, and people would laugh about it. Like, there was another from Jew, who also always wore his kippah in the same school as us, and I'd always get compared to him. They'd always point me out and be like, "Huh, that's the kid." And I was like, "No, I just happen to be another Jew that's wearing a kippah." Like, I'd be at a Halloween thing and I'd be wearing my kippah. Like, you think about it now, it sounds crazy. Like, you were at this place, but you still wore a kippah. Like, these two polar opposite things. But it was just, to me, that was my. It wasn't like even a rebellion. I was just like, this is what I do. I'm happy with who I am there. So yeah, that was sort of my upbringing up until yeshiva. I remember I didn't really want to go to yeshiva. My plan was sort of to go to the army. I was very set on that. I was going to the army. I didn't really know why, but I knew I wanted to live in Israel. I knew like that was the place for me. It's funny, I say that with an English flag behind me in snowy America, snowy New York right now. But yeah, I was dead set that I'm moving to Israel, and I'm going to go to the army. I remember my dad said to me, he's like, okay, you can do the army, you're obviously not going to do it, but you can do the army if you really want, only if you go to yeshiva. So like, okay, fine, whatever. So I went to look at all these yeshivas, and on the last day of my yeshiva trip, when I was checking them out in Israel, it was literally, we were flying home in like 5 or 6 hours, and my cousin texted me like a picture of this beautiful campus. It's like, you got to check out Rashid. It's like stunning. Like, he took a picture with like 2 palm trees behind him. There was pond there. It was like sun shining. This is the middle of February. I'm like, whoa, this place looks epic. So I was like, fine, I'll go check it out. I went to check it out. Fell in love with the campus. Like, being deadly honest, like I fully went there because it was a nice campus. It was a cool place. The rabbis there seemed very sweet. And so I was like, fine, I'm gonna go there. So I was in JFS, and I came back and I decided I was going to a yeshiva. So that in itself was already, I was taking myself a step away from all of my friends. And my friends at the time, to put it into context, like most of my friends were definitely not religious. Pretty much none of them kept kosher. None of them kept Shabbos. So it was definitely like a weird thing when I would explain to people, especially my friends who like were more leaning to reform and conservative, when I explained to them that I'm going to a place where you sit and learn Torah all day. That was a weird concept, and like I was trying to explain to them, like, no, I'm not like a religious fanatic. Like, that's not actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to go there to have fun and do this and party. Like, that's what I was like trying to convince them. That's I'm not going there because I want to sit down and learn Torah. That's definitely not what I want to be doing. So already going in, I was very like against the stigma of it. And I wasn't so looking forward. I remember like the night before I went, I was like, this is the worst decision I'm ever going to make. What am I doing? I wasn't like so close to the people there at the time, and it was going to be like an interesting time. But I ended up going there. I get there. I think I was there in Israel beforehand. We had a couple weddings. It was very nice. So I was eased into it. I get there and I meet my roommates. One of my roommates is now one of my best friends 3 years later. So crazy hashgacha there as well. All the things that we did, and he was one of the people that came back with me, and we had this and that, whatever it was. It was just there's a lot of crazy hashgacha in between it, but there was a lot of like interesting things that went on, and I had a good time in Shana Aleph in my first year of yeshiva. I'll be honest, Rashid at the beginning as well is a lot of people are coming in not so from. So you go out to Ben Yehuda like every Thursday night. You're not really doing such appropriate things, not so kosher things. And as the years it goes on, you start getting influenced more and more. And so there were people who coming in straight away, opened up a Gemara, learning through it, understanding everything that's going on. But I was definitely not that kind of guy. I remember distinctly the first time I learned a Omid of Gemara, like a page of Gemara, was Sukkos Chol Hamoed of my Shana Bet. During Shana Aleph, I was like, I'd read in like our share and stuff like that, and like during Corona as well, like I was also very like going along with one of my friends who was my chavros at the time, and we'd be learning sort of, but like it wasn't really learning. We just like I was reading from the page and like from the article and this and that, but it wasn't like learning. Like definitely not learning. And like I could only read from what I'd written down and stuff like that. So like I didn't understand anything that was going on, and we'd go through it like almost like it was a storybook. And realistically, it's not so much has changed since then, but like there's lots of shame it'll as time goes on, you know? So I wasn't really learning, but like during that year I was slowly getting to, like, I kind of came in knowing that I was a Jew. I had this idea in my head, I'm a Jew, but like once you're in a Jewish environment where there's only Jews around and all they're pushing is learning Torah and getting close to God and believing there's a God and bringing ultimate proofs that there is God, it's kind of scary because you lived your whole life as, like, especially me, like I lived my life as there's a God in the world, like God exists, and like I was pretty certain I knew that God existed, but like God existed, I'm in this world. They weren't correlated at all. They existed. That was just what it was. And now you're coming to tell me that my life is because of God. Like they're directly correlated. They're completely interlinked. Like that's what you're crazy. Like I couldn't really fathom that. Like how does that actually fit in? Because if that's true, then I have to actually keep everything, and like I have to really connect to Him and connect to His Torah and like do all of it. Like you're crazy. Like I couldn't really understand it, and like I think I was very like hesitant to like really be full on in it. Also, like I was having fun. Like it's for the first time ever. Like I came in like a very shy kid, and for the first time ever, like I'm also like have a good chevra, like good group of friends, and like I'm feeling much more confident in myself. Like I don't really want to be taking on all of these like crazy concepts and like learning Torah. It just seems crazy. So I go wherever it was. Corona hit. And up until that point, I was slowly but surely getting a bit closer. And I was starting to take on the idea that like I think I want to be like a from Jew. Like I don't know necessarily how I'm going to do it. Like I had no belief and self-confidence in my learning ability or my like how I was actually going to do anything like that, because I couldn't pick up a Gemara or do anything. But like I was just like, I want my life to be different. I want to be having a frummer environment. So yeah, Corona hit March 2020 while we were in yeshiva. I had strep at the time, so they quarantined me. I was like one of the last people to go home because they thought I had Corona. Turns out I had strep. Strep for the Brits is some like tonsillitis kind of thing, which isn't really tonsillitis, but you're basically very, very sick with all the same symptoms as Corona, except like you have your taste and smell. But it was right at the beginning of Corona. They put me in a quarantine thing. Baruch Hashem, I got out. Ended up like I was planning to like stay in yeshiva throughout like the 2-3 weeks that we were going to be sent home, because obviously Corona was only like a 2 or 3 week thing, and then everyone would be able to come back to Israel. And yeah, Bob's your uncle, we're back in and it's normal. 2 years later, no. no one really saw this one coming. But at the time, yeah, I was very certain. But things fell through, ended up going home. But yeah, one piece of the puzzle that I missed out was growing up. If anyone's like, I was definitely very vocal about it at the time. But it's definitely not so much of a sneeze thing, so I try not to delve into it. But I used to be like extremely overweight. I think at my peak I was like 200 pounds at 5'1". So for those of you who understand BMI, it was like over the roof. I was like I was overweight. It was very, very unhealthy. So Baruch Hashem, during high school and my last 2 years of high school, I was losing weight through the last like the first few months of yeshiva as well. I was losing weight, and then like I started putting on back weight, whatever. So by the time I came home from Corona, I wasn't as heavy as I was even to the slightest, or like at my peak. But I think I was like 160 pounds or something at the peak of Corona, which is like I don't know, 75 kilos or something, and at my peak I was 98 kilos, something along those lines. It was 97 kilos. If someone can do the conversions, I'm sure I did it wrong, but those are like the basics of it. And so, yeah, I came home, and I sort of knew that like this is gonna be like a bit of a long thing. So like I don't know why, but like I bought myself a pull-up bar, I bought myself a couple of bands and all of this and that, and I just during Corona, Baruch Hashem, I learned the science of like healthy eating and nutrition and working out and all of these different things, which has allowed me to get a personal training degree and all of that, and all of these extra things that have helped me. And like when I'm looking back at my life at this point in time, like I Baruch Hashem in a healthy way, and like I think had certain things not happened, and like I'm not going to explain on night, but I can pinpoint 7 key moments that like if those 7 points hadn't happened at the way they happened at the time they happened, like I genuinely don't believe I would be here today. I genuinely, like, this is a scary thing to say, but at the time when you're that heavy, you're not in a healthy mindset. So if you're overweight and you don't know how to get out of it, you feel trapped. There's literally no way. So at the time, if you're not in a healthy mindset, you have unhealthy thoughts of what to do and how to get out of that situation and how to end things. So I'm looking back now at this point in time and saying it's crazy how each of those every single moment, the hashgacha pratis that happened, that led me to that point. Had I not moved to the school and become less religious and all of these different things, none of it would have happened the way it happened, and none of it would have led me to the way it did. None of it would have led me to that point in Corona where I was like so like unhappy that I tried to learn more about it and I was like this is crazy to say it, but like we went to Morocco in high school because we're Moroccan. I haven't seen the Baba Sali there. Now I'm explaining all the things, but we went to Morocco and I did like a 7-day water fast then. Like you become desperate. So all of these things like that I was doing then, they were just unhealthy things. And so Corona allowed me to go and understand things and understand how to learn how to eat properly and eat well and how to understand calories and macros, all of these things. And so it's crazy right now that when I look back on things, at the time they seem the worst things in the world. They literally like being that overweight, being that unhealthy, starving yourself, that's so unhealthy, and they seem like the worst things in the world. But now they're the biggest bracha that has ever happened to me because I understand things. All of these things that led me to these bad points in my life, they made me who I am today, and I understand who I am today because of them. So that's, by the way, one of the key points that I'm trying to focus on, and hopefully we can delve more into it. And my assumption, I can't see the time right now, but I assume this is longer than 20 minutes. And I'm so sorry for those of you who are still listening. But I'm gonna try keep it that we really do focus on the most important thing here, that you've got to be able to see in your life that Hashem has everything planned for you. Hashem, you understand, Hashem is the world. We're simply part of His world. Our purpose in life, literally our whole purpose in our life, is to be part of Hashem's world. Hashem put us here for a reason, to serve Him and to learn Torah. And if you want to argue ideologies, we can do that another time. But the simple level is we're here to serve Hashem, but Hashem is every part of this world. Hashem is literally everywhere around me. Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. That's how the song goes, right? So if you're understanding at that point that every action that you do, Hashem has a reason for it. Every single point in your life, Hashem made it so that you would be in that situation. That whatever it was, whether it was good or bad, that was for your best, or that had a significant purpose. When a loss happens, it's one of the hardest things to fathom. And Baruch Hashem, I'm so thankful and so lucky that Hashem has allowed it, that I haven't experienced loss, like a real significant loss. And so, like, I'm truly thankful for that. But when that sort of thing happens, it's impossible to comprehend how Hashem, who is all good, can do what seems to be the ultimate bad and take someone away from your life. It's impossible to fathom that. But when you take that step back and you say, yes, this is hard, and I'm going to bring in a story in a second, but when you say, yes, this is hard, but this was meant to be, and there's a reason for why this had happened. And I'm personally at the stage now where I can comprehend that, but I'm sure at the point in time I will be able to comprehend it, and I'll be able to see what a massive bracha Hashem had planned for me. And unfortunately, I was at my friend's father's funeral, his levaya, and that probably the most impactful thing that I've ever heard. He stood in front of his father's box. The word is lost on me right now, but the box with his father was behind him in the car, and he said, "Today is of course a day to be sad, but today is not a day to be angry, because Hashem has a plan for us. Hashem has a reason for everything He's doing, and my father wouldn't want us to be angry, but he'd want us to appreciate all the good that we had. Every single thing, actual action has a reason, and it's not for us to be able to be angry or be annoyed or whatever it is, because we're simply not at the place and time to understand what's going on. And that's just like, it's such an important idea to grasp, when to be able to see the bigger picture. Because often what happens when you're depressed, when you're in that mindset, all you can see is this thing right here. You can't see 0.76 or whatever. You can't see Z and A. You can only see that you're in F currently, and you can't see how far you've come and how far you have to go and what use more you have. All you see is that I'm here and this sucks right now and I don't know how to get out of it, and you're very focused on that. And that's often why people unfortunately commit suicide, from my understanding, is that you feel trapped. There's no way out, because you're not able to take yourself out of the picture, out of the equation, and see that there's so much more going on that Hashem has planned for us. And I think it's probably I'm going to try to be open with this, but I've seen it. I currently see a therapist. I do this. So I have an understanding of all these different things, only because I've experienced them. Because at the time, I understand your heart, it's painful. Nothing makes sense to you. But the one thing that gets me out of it often is I say to myself, okay, for a second, act as if you're another person. Because I unfortunately, I like to talk. I like to speak to people, especially when they're going through things. It's one of the things I like to do. And so I often give people certain advice, and it's interesting when you give other people advice. It's very easy. You just tell them, do this, do that. It's so easy. Just get out of this mindset, whatever, do it. But when you're trying to give yourself that same advice, you're I can't do this. It's impossible. And when someone's giving you advice, you're no, it doesn't make sense. I can't do it. But you sometimes got to take yourself out of your own body. You got to have that out of body experience and say to yourself, sit down there and say, give yourself the advice that you're going through right now, and actually put it into play of what you would do. And so that's often what I try to do. And I try to say to myself, look at the bigger picture right now. Yes, this is bad. This can be a very sucky situation. But there's so much more to it that I cannot see, and that Hashem has planned for me. Sometimes when something bad is going on, I just thank you, Hashem, because whatever it is, I'm sure this is the best thing possible. And you had this in plan for me, so all I can say is thank you, because you chose for this to happen for me. And I'm not I have the capacity to comprehend what it is you want to do for me, but I'm thankful for it. So that was definitely one thing that I sort of picked up over my time, starting I think Shana Aleph. And definitely Shana Bet. Shana Bet was an interesting year, because we obviously all locked down because of Corona. We were inside, and I'm watching these Shana Alephs steig away. They're pounding. They're growing so much because they can't go out and party. All they could do was just sit down and learn and get to know each other and get to know themselves. It was the biggest bracha ever. I think there were some people who they unfortunately couldn't handle being trapped in, but I think the majority of people just did incredible. They really did incredible. So they were doing incredible, and I myself, I couldn't learn at that point. I really it really hurt me. I didn't really know what to do. And so Baruch Hashem, whenever it was Chol Hamoed Sukkot, I think I learned my first Omid. You get that sense of confidence, and just by the way, that's a huge thing that a lot of what we can't do isn't because we can't do it. It's because we tell ourselves we can't do it. Like, I remember I was listening to a shir by Rav Shlomo, and he was saying, like, there was once a story where this kid, he went to, he was like a very unclever kid, and I think he was taking his SATs, which is like the American GCSE or wherever it is, and he was like a very like not clever kid, but for some reason he went in and he came out and he got like one of the highest scores there, and he couldn't believe it. His mum was like, "You cheated!" And like, "Why? Don't lie to me. You cheated." And he was like, "No, I didn't." And so in his mind, he was like, "Whoa, I'm actually clever." And so from that, he took a massive turnaround, because he was like, "Wait, so if I'm clever, maybe I should stop in this journey that I'm going around and actually have potential." He ended up going to college. He ended up creating his own business, became like a multimillionaire. And then I think like in 2020 or wherever it was, they like 20 years later, he gets a call up and says, "By the way, unfortunately, we're just going back on our, we're looking back on our records, and turns out we sent you were one of the 70 mistakes or whatever, that we sent you the wrong results of your grades. We're so sorry for all the inconveniences we caused you." And like, that just goes to show everything's literally in our mind. Like, we're the only people holding ourselves back. Like, that's once again what I was saying. Like, when you're in that depressed stage, you can't grasp that you are more than the person that you are in that certain situation. When something bad's happening, all I am in that situation, all I am now is that person in that situation. I'm that bad person. I'm the person who's done something wrong. I'm the person who embarrassed myself. Like, that's all you are. You're stuck in that one check man. But when you step back and you look at your accomplishments, you see how far you come and all the opportunities you have to go. You're like, whoa, it's kind of crazy actually. Like, there's more to life than just this singular moment. So yeah, once I got that confidence of that, I was able to learn that Amud al Gemara, that page of Gemara, and I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. I can do this. Like, I actually have potential for my life. Like, this is a big thing. And so I, like, over time, I started learning a bit more. Over those next few weeks, I started like actually listening in shir. I remember the first day, like, I really chapped something. I really understood something that was going in shir. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I think we were talking like I think it was like Daf Hey of Kosovus. I think it was like Bir B'chil B'Shavos, something along that concept there, and so it happened to be just as things were like going great. My cousin Yoni, big shout out, he got married, so obviously we were going to go home for his wedding. I was very, very excited for it, and Baruch Hashem, Corona came around. I was like, nope, this is not happening. So I think they had their date for the wedding. It was like set like 17th of December or something, and it turns out that 17th of December the UK was shutting down and everything was closing. No weddings could take place, so they ended up bringing everything a day forward, and it was just a whole crazy thing. Beautiful wedding, just truly incredible. And so then I think like it was Shabbos, and then Sunday morning I had my flight. So Sunday morning I wake up, my flight's at like I think 11 p.m. or something, or 11 a.m. So I wake up at like 6 a.m. It happened at 6 a.m. My alarm went off. I opened my phone, 6:01 notification, Israel has shut its borders. I'm like, what? Israel has closed its borders, all flights are being cancelled. I then check my mail, 6:03 message from like Elal or whatever, your flight has been cancelled. I'm like, what? And like I'm frantically checking everything. Turns out there were people who were like in the air at the time and they got sent home and this and that, and so much chaos was caused at that time. So it was firstly a massive bracha that at that point in time I was still in my bed, very comfortable, and like I called up everyone, found out everything was shut, so it was done. I think so I was home with my cousins, my other cousin who was also in Malaysia with me, and we went to the airport and they obviously said to us, go away, like you obviously can't get in. So I was distraught. I was like Hashem, I don't understand what you want from me, because like I'm here now, like I'm actually like I feel like I can get close to you and I understand like some sort of who you want me to be, and now you're just keeping me here in London. Like I don't understand. You don't want me to like learn. Like you don't want me to do anything. So like I think I was a bit frustrated at that point. But now the next piece of crazy hashgacha comes in. At that Shabbos table, I'd spoken to I think my cousin's brother-in-law, and he told me that his brother was at this new base medrash program, and that had opened up right next to the brand new house that we'd moved into. So it was literally like a 5-minute walk. So I was like, you know what? I can do this. I'm really in it. I understand the whole, like, all the concepts going on in the Gemara and all the back and forth of the Ma'ul Shabbos. Like, I really understood it. So I was like, I'm not going to get it in. I'm not going to give up on this. I arranged with my Rebbe that he was going to zoom me in, whatever. And I was like, hopefully it'll be for like a week or whatever, and then we can get back in. So turns out I think it was like a month before we went back in. But what I ended up doing was every single day I decided to go to this base medrash. And like the people in the base medrash were all older guys who'd come back from yeshiva. I'm going to give a massive shout out. Brampton Base Medrash, BBM on Brampton Road in Golders Green in Hendon. Can't speak right now, but whatever. That like it changed my life because I see all these guys. They come back and they knew who they were. They were like, I remember some of them from high school, and they weren't like necessarily the most on the derech kids. And now here they were all pretty much all wearing black and white, but like they were all chillers. They were all like, you could talk to them like they were normal people, and they sort of knew the derech that they wanted. They knew that I'm a Jew, Hashem, like I'm a part of the world and of Hashem's world. Like this is my life, and this is the path that I follow, and this is how I grow towards it. And like I'm looking at all these guys, I'm looking up to them all. I'm like, wow, these are the type of people I want. This is the type of person I want to be. So at the time, I think I just started wearing like a button-down shirt, like fully. Like I remember I was wearing like my black jeans at the time, and obviously white Air Forces, and like I had a nice a nice like couple coloured button-down Charles Tilbury shirts, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go black and white. It's more not because I wasn't like. I was at that stage in my life where I was like, this is, like, I'm ready to do this. It was more that this is the person who I want to aspire to be. And it's once again goes back to that concept of giving yourself the confidence. So I remember walking down the stairs of my new house, which I'd barely been into, and like I put on my white shirt, and like I was looking around, like terrified, like what everyone's going to say, what everyone's going to laugh. I don't think anyone really batted an eyelid. But to me, that was like the big deal. So I was like, wow, okay. I'm black and white now, and so that was like a defining point in my life, because I'd now taken that big step. That was the big direction. That was the big statement that I was giving, and it all happened because I was stuck in London, which I thought was like the worst thing in the world. And so Baruch Hashem, there was like literally a 2-day window that we could get back into Israel, and like crazy hashgacha within that I got back into Israel. And then I went off back into Israel, and I remember obviously you get the comments, whoa, you're black and white now, and like you walk in with like a little bit of a swagger, because you're just like, yeah, you know what, I'm black and white now, I'm confident, I know sort of this path I'm going down. But what I didn't realize was that Baruch Hashem, January was when I came back in, and I came back like 2 days after all the guys who leave halfway through the year of Shana Bet, they leave. So a lot of my very close friends had left before I'd got a chance to say goodbye to them. So I felt like I'd come back to a whole new yeshiva, which is definitely like a very lonely feeling. And so I was definitely not in like a healthy mindset. I really like I was in a stage where like I was like still grappling with the fact that like everything's happening for its reason. Like when you're in yeshiva and you're in that bubble, it's very hard to see from day to day how things are changing, and it's very hard to see past that bubble. And unfortunately, I wasn't in like a very healthy mindset, because like it's very lonely when you don't get a chance to say goodbye to people, and like you walk back into like almost a different place, and like you don't really know necessarily who you are. You're expecting all the answers to be laid out to you, and like it's not necessarily there. So I went down like a negative path in my life, and I realized, you know what, it's time to see someone to like speak about things, because I feel like I'm not in a healthy mindset, and if I continue down this path, I will continue getting progressively worse in myself, and like I don't really understand who I was at that point. I was like very much battling that road, and like I was like, now I believe God is a key part of my life. Like that's terrifying, because that means every action that I do now has to be for the sake of Hashem. Like which is terrifying because it means you're constantly. There's never an off switch within Judaism. Like the way you tie your shoelace, the way you sleep, the way you act, every word that comes out of your mouth has to be filtered. The way what you see, going to the beach, that it's like I haven't been to the beach now in a year and a half. I think like these are all huge sacrifices that you have to give up. And like when you're growing up in a world that's not something that you do, that you obviously go to these places and you speak that way and you watch these movies, like to give them up for the sake of something that you can't see is just, it's almost unfathomable. It doesn't really comprehend so much. And like especially when you're in that stage where you're trying to fight these things alone, and you don't really know the path that you're going down. It's definitely not a healthy thing. But I think so. I went to see one guy. It was in not Mesharim, but it was in, maybe it was a bit further out. I can't remember necessarily where it was. But it was in Yerushalayim somewhere. And I remember like the second time, like the first time I went, I wasn't such a fan of him. Second time I went, I was like slightly getting more comfortable, but on the bus there, I didn't realise I'd left my AirPods, unfortunately. So I had one AirPod in my ear, and then my actual AirPod case with the other AirPod I'd left on the table, and I was like devastated, like to lose, because that's like the one piece of connection you still have. Like you become so reliant on all this technology that it's so hard to live without it. And also, if you're in Israel, it's not easy just to buy a new pair. It's not easy to just get a new thing, and to know that you can't listen to music on the long bus journey back. Oh, it's terrible, you know. These are the lovely third world issues we have, and so I think that tarnished my whole view of this guy that I was seeing. I was like, because in my head it was just a very negative thing, and so I ended up telling my mum all these things that like whatever, and she found someone who I still see to this day, and who's genuinely changed my life. Because when you're going to speak to someone about all these issues, when you're actually talking things out, you get to know yourself. You get to break down all these things that you don't even realize are haunting you. Things that happened when you were 7, things that happened when you were 11, when you were 14, when you were 16. All these crucial parts in your life that you never realized, you never worked through them. Like you never broke them down, and they're still all your actions. The way you are made up of your experiences. That is what life is. Life is just a mix of built-up experiences. That's who our character traits are evolved from. Like if you're screamed at as a kid, you're going to be much more of a shy kid. I can't think of like other good examples, but like every action that has happened to you, they shape the person who you're going to be. And if you don't work through them, often those negative things will end up coming out from them. So I'm like working through all these old things. I'm like, I'm speaking to this guy. I'm like, sometimes, why are you going into this? It's like such an irrelevant part of my life. And then by the end of the session, I'm like, holy moly, I didn't realize how much of an effect that had on me. Like I didn't realize all these parts of my personality that had been withdrawn because of this. And like, the more I studied myself, the more I realized, whoa, this, like, I'm starting to understand who I want to be in life, what the choices I'm going to make, and the family I'm going to raise. And I felt like healthy enough to do it. I became like much more of like an outspoken person. I could speak to people. I wasn't like held back by all these past events that happened. And like you have this clarity. And like I'm looking back now, and like that the craziest hashgacha of like how every single piece was happened, that I came back when I did, that I had the opportunity to be in London and see the people who I want to be, and then get sent back and to have that down place. We always say like life's like the heart rate monitor. It's like always ups and downs. Like it's not healthy if it's straight. You've got to have those downs to get those ups, because those ups are basically what's the word for it? But they're like they're an effect, or it's like cause and effect, whatever it is. See, this is, I told you, no one wants to listen to this episode because I can't speak. But you gotta understand that with those downs have the opportunities to have those ups. And when you see at the point in time when I had those downs, where I was doubting who I was and the person that I wanted to be, like I just like, if I wish I'd had that clarity. Like I'm also thankful that I didn't have that clarity, because it made those downs so bad that I could have such highs. But if I'd had that clarity that this is happening for a reason, that everything that I'm going through right now is for the sake of making me a better person. Hashem is literally like planning every single aspect of my life, and making me who I am today. I just would have had such a healthier mindset and like be much more comfortable and okay in that situation. And like throughout all this time, you gotta understand that it's not just I'm sitting down and things are happening and Hashem's doing things to me. We have the opportunity to literally speak to God. Like, it's the crazy. If you think about it like this, like I come from London. Yeah, how often do I get to speak to the Queen of England? Never. Like, there's often times that I tell guys in yeshiva, oh yeah, we had tea with the Queen. Everyone has that time where they have tea with the Queen and they speak to her and they catch up. How's Philip? How's all these things doing? Okay, God rest his soul. But how all these, like, you don't do that. You never do that. But yeah, the Melech HaMelech, like the King of all kings, Hashem, Borei Olam, like once again, I'm not alright. But like, you got the King of Kings right here, and you get to speak to him 3 times a day. Like, that's another bracha that I'm thankful for. That like I had the ability to be able to daven to him 3 times a day. I can read Hebrew. Like, it's actually one of the things that like I was terrible at. I thought I was dyslexic in Hebrew, and like over time I like started doing like Tehillim every day so I could start reading more fluently. But like, I'm so thankful now that I get to speak to God every single day, and I get to actually like talk one-on-one to him. When you're doing something wrong, you know the guilty feeling you have, but you do slachronu. Every time you're saying, I sinned willfully, I erred, I did all these things, and you know that Hashem just wants the best for you, so you know that he's going to help you do better. Even if the thing was the worst thing in the world, you know he's going to help you do better. And you say Shema Kaleni, you can ask literally for anything you want there. You know you ask him to listen to our voice, let us be heard, let us be able to speak to you, and you know he's going to answer. You go into tefillah knowing that you're having a conversation back and forth, and you can literally ask for anything possible. The craziest story that like we're almost going to end off, and I'm so sorry this has gone on for so long, but the craziest story, I have so many of these stories, but this is probably one of the craziest stories. It was a week ago, not even, probably like the beginning of this week, or last, wherever it was. I ended up waking up late for Shacharis, so I ended up going to late to Shacharis, and like I'm in my davening, I'm like, Hashem, I just like I'm personally like I love Christmas. Like, I'm saying it now, like I love Christmas. Christmas is a great time of year. 'Tis the season, and I like this year I went out to see the Christmas lights and all the things, and like I got so much joy from it. And like I came back and sat down like one of these days, and I was like, that goes against all my principal values. Like, that's not who I want to be. I don't think that's a healthy thing to be doing, especially like when we think all the things linked to it, and just wherever it is, like it's so contradictory for me to get such joy from seeing like the big Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center. Like I've never been more excited to see something in my life. Like I was like, whoa, that's the coolest thing ever. And like if that's so contradictory to who I am and who I want to be, and like I was very like taken aback by it. I was like, like for me, I personally don't think that being outside of Israel is a healthy thing for me, because there's so much Western ideology that I personally think isn't healthy for me, and I do not think it's healthy for many people, but it's a different conversation for a different topic. But I remember I was like thinking about it, and I was davening. I can't remember exactly where it was, but I was saying like, Hashem, help me find a way to get back to Israel. Like this is my goal is to get my degree here and then go back to Israel. But like I need a way to get back to Israel and just feel connected to you again. And just this isn't the right place for me. Literally, that was my davening. That was my tefillah. I happen to be in this place that's like a 10-minute drive away from the place I am currently. And so I asked one of the guys around there, like, does anyone know if anyone's driving to this place, or driving near this place? And some guy comes up to me and he's like, where are you from? What's your name? So I tell him my name. Turns out he's one of the rabbis from my brother's yeshiva, who's setting up his own yeshiva in Israel, or who set up his own yeshiva in Israel, where they're full post-yeshiva guys, and they basically do Torah college, which is the college that I'm in currently. They do Torah college online and like in person there, and like yeshiva in the morning. Plus, it's in Israel, and I was like, what? That's the crazy. I was doubting that second. It couldn't be more perfect. And then Hashem literally sends it like right in front of me. And this sounds like one of those stories where it's just like, okay, shkoyach, that's like a religious thing, that's that kind of thing. But like, you understand, in every aspect of your life, you have the opportunity to say, like, Hashem, help me. And you cry out to Hashem. You can say, like, Hashem, I need help. Or just like, I want to feel connected. I want to do something. Please just help me, answer me. Like, let me know you're here. And he will answer. He will genuinely, I can almost guarantee you will get your answer. It could be in 3 years from now. It could be in 5 years from now. It could be you look back in retrospect and you're like, whoa, I didn't even realize that thing was answered. But it will be answered, and it's just a matter of when and what's right for you. And you gotta understand that tefillah is the most important and powerful thing because you're having a conversation with him. But more than that comes like in moedim, you're saying, you gotta imagine this. Imagine someone gives you $1 million. He gives you everything in the world. And you just take it and you use it and you keep asking him for more. Please, can I have more? Please, can I want a Ferrari, I want a Lamborghini, I want an ice cream, I want a pizza, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. You keep nagging him and he keeps loving you. He keeps giving to you. And like he wants the best of you. You're not going to say thank you to him? Like, it's not even just us to Hashem. It's ben al chavera. To everyone you're meeting, the gratitude that you have to have. Like, you gotta understand, he's giving you everything. You got to give back to him. You got to say thank you. You got to show your appreciation. When you're doubling modim, smile. Say thank you so much for everything you give me. Feel with your fingers. You can feel. I'm speaking to the cloud here. Hopefully everyone I'm speaking to has some feeling or some hearing or some sense of sight. All of these things. We take it for granted. I'm currently looking at my camera right now. You currently are looking either at your phone or listening in your ears, and you can hear me. You can smell the birds outside. You can feel the freezing cold of New York City in the snow. All of these things, it's not granted that we have them. Hashem was kind enough that He allowed us to have them. You go to Camp Has, you go to Camp Simcha. All of these things, you see, not everyone gets that opportunity. Not everyone has the ability to do everything perfectly like we do. And it puts things in perspective. You want to say thank you for all you've given me. Yes, there's certain things that currently I can't see, but thank you for all the challenges that you put me through. Obviously, we don't ever ask for challenges, but thank you for all the opportunities you've given me. Thank you for this new job I've got. Thank you for this money, this opportunity of money that I've got. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. You understand that it's not really a one-way street. And yes, Hashem will still keep giving you, even if you're not thanking him, and he will still keep reaching out a hand to you, theoretically, like not metaphorically. Like all of these things he will still do because he loves you. We are his children. Like every single one of us, the guy out in the street, the guys in here, everyone is B'nai Hashem. Like we're all Hashem's children. We all have the opportunity to grow close to him. But it's now like our opportunity to say, am I going to take that? Am I going to actually give back to him? Am I going to use these opportunities to help others? Or am I going to use it for my own selfish purpose? Am I going to use the money that I just earned and just splurge it on a brand new suit and a pair of Lululemon trousers? Or am I going to give that 10% to Stocker? Well, not only give that 10% to Stocker, but technically the 10% that we're giving to Stocker isn't really ours. You can listen to Rav Ovadia on it, but like once you're giving that 10%, you give that 20%, because the 10%, whatever it is, it's not really ours. Another discussion. That 20% saying that, you know what, I'm thankful that you gave it to me, and this is my way of giving extra. I want to be actually fulfilling this mitzvah. I want to be able to give to you. And we do say that that's the one thing that you can challenge Hashem with, that you can challenge him with tzedakah, because Hashem's always going to give back to you. But you actually want to push yourself. You want to make it kind of hard to do a mitzvah. Everything shouldn't be like an easy thing to do, because otherwise you're not working towards it. If it was just easy to learn, everyone would have finished us by now. Everyone would have been keeping everything. We got that free will to, when we're in a challenge, to choose the right path to go down. So, yeah, these are all the different things that you gotta see in your life, and you gotta the small things. The small things is definitely, I think, what is it? It's not a big man. Small actions make a big man, and big actions make a small man. So I'm butchering all of these things. Once again, I'm trying to emphasize. I'm a Haaretz here, but when it comes down to it, like, we all are Haaretzes in certain things, and it's up to us to strive to do better. And then we gotta always be looking to better ourselves and be the best person we are. And I'm personally just thankful that Hashem gave me all the opportunities He did, and allowed me to be able to see, because it's not such a posh thing. It's not such an easy thing just to see all the brachas that He gave me. And I'm so thankful that, like, I can see even some of the ones that He's given me. Like, today I was extremely unwell. Like, seriously, I was being, like, I thought I was being stabbed from the inside, and fire was burning out my insides. I was throwing up in like a random pizza shop in Borough Park, and with people knocking on the door, and I was like, go away. But, like, I came out of that, and, like, I'm healthy, I'm well, and, like, I literally, I thought at that point in time, like, I thought I was gonna, like, faint on the toilet and just, like, collapse and die. Obviously, I'm not being a drama queen, but I'm thankful that I'm able to sit here and talk to you and have this platform and be able to have the amount of people that I have listening. Like, it's just all such a bracha, and, like, every aspect in your life is a bracha, and if you see it, you appreciate it. If you don't see it, you appreciate yourself. If you see yourself in everything that you're doing, then that's not the right way to ever be able to be a good. I feel this is a horrible thing to say, but you aren't going to be a good person if you say, I got the promotion because I'm so good at what I do. I earned all this money because I'm so clever. I earned this money. I earned this apartment, or whatever it is. I'm liking on all the good examples. But if you keep saying I, you're not going to be a happy person, because your life becomes self-centered. It becomes all about yourself, and you can't give to anyone else. If you realize that everything's given to you, you're just a byproduct of Hashem's plan, and you have the opportunity to help people. Your life has meaning. Like Viktor Frankl's whole man's search for meaning. Like, if you understand, we need a purpose to function as human beings. We need a purpose. So if your purpose is singularly yourself, you're not going to be healthy. You're not going to be well. You're going to be unhappy. You're not be able to give to people. You're not going to be able to give to your family and be a good person and be a happy person. And so by taking that step back, seeing the big picture, seeing that we do have this purpose here, B'ezrat Hashem, it'll be the key to making us happier. And I apologize for however long this was. My assumption is either the 40 minutes to an hour to 3 hours. I don't know. I can't see the time right now. But if you listened all the way through, I'm so sorry. But I hope I was able to pass on some sort of message, and not waste your time. I honestly, I enjoyed this. This is something that was therapeutic for me, even, because just I needed that confidence again to know that I know who I'm going to be. I know the purpose that I have in life, because it's very easy to doubt yourself and forget that purpose that you have. But yeah, you know what, we're gonna end off on a quick fun story, just because I don't know, it's funny, and whoever, I doubt there's many people still listening at this point, but if you did, you get a fun story. So it was I came back. I went to YU after Shana Bet post Pesach, and so I ended up coming home once that was finished. And one thing I'd been toying with, I was wearing black and white, but one thing I'd been toying with was the jacket. So I think I finally said to myself, and I went back to BPM and I saw everyone was wearing jackets. So I was like, you know what, this is it. I'm going to do it. I'm gonna get myself a jacket. I probably, this story is probably possibly one of the most traumatic experiences of my life, but it's still nevertheless an entertaining story. So hopefully it's not Lashon Hara. If it is, maybe we'll work around a way to hopefully say it without Lashon Hara. So I get my jacket, I put it on. I'm feeling like, okay, this is kind of weird, but like I feel this is my next stage. Like I'm feeling confident in myself. I come into Dublin the next day, once again with a little swagger, you know. Look at me, I got my jacket on, you know. I do it up, put my tefillin on, blah blah blah. 2-3 days with this, I'm like very in it. And at that point in time, I was like, I came back from YU. I was like in a good mindset. I happened to be knew I was switching to Landers. I was like, look at me, I'm stuck, you know. Yeah, I know what I'm gonna do, you know. So I was like listening to my shirim. I was very like focused. And then happened to be my grandparents came from Israel to London that week. And just as they were going back, my dad asked me to go to his shop to pick up something for them. So I drive to his shop and pick up something. And as I'm getting back into the car, and I had my jacket on at this time, it was about 10:30 at night. As I'm getting back into my car, this old man, this like Hasidish looking man, comes up to me and starts speaking to me in Hebrew. He's like, Slicha, blah, blah, blah. He was speaking Hebrew. My Hebrew's not good enough to retell the story properly, but he was basically like trying to convey to me that he wanted me to take somewhere. He was opening his book, pointing out an address. I used Google Translate. I was going back and forth, but I worked out that he wanted me to take him to a certain address. So like, fine, I'm happy to do it. I'm heading in that direction anyways. It happens to be right next to me. I'm like, listen, he saw me wearing my jacket. He knew I was like stuck yet. So why would he not want to ask me? This is what happens. Hashem gives you all of these things. I'm like thinking in my head right now, this guy, he's probably like one of these serious rebbeim, and like whatever. It's a big zuchus that like he see me like I'm a shark kid, so he's gonna give me so whatever it was. Like this is like one of the good things about wearing your jacket, or whatever. That was the thought process. So fine, but he basically said to me, he's like, I'm gonna paraphrase it, but he was like saying, I'm going to pick up a drink, then come back, then I'm gonna go to and so he's like, gonna pick up a drink, come back. So he came back, gave me the drink, and he was like, I need to leher palel, mariv, whatever, shkoach, I can't speak Hebrew, whatever. So he went, I was like, fine. So he starts hobbling along to Davar Mariv. Mind you, this is like 10:30 at this point. I look at my watch, and he said like 10 minutes to me. I look at my watch, it's 11 o'clock now. I'm like, okay, it's slightly worrying. It's 11:15 now. Okay, where is this guy? 11:30 now. Oy vey. Okay. Finally, 11:45, the guy comes back. I'm like, finally. And I couldn't leave because he'd left like stuff in my car. And like, whatever, I was listening to my share. I was like, listen, I'm stuck, you know, I can do this. I know what I'm talking about. So I was very happy with myself. I was like, look at me doing big mitzvah, you know, wow, thank you Hashem. I was like, thank you Hashem for giving me this opportunity. Every time I look at my clothes, I was like, thank you Hashem, you gave me this opportunity. I was very, very proud of myself. Finally he comes back and he's like, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. But he's like, can you take me back to Reb Chunder's, whatever it was, this place in Dublin, because he wanted to get a coffee. So I was like, okay, fine, fine, I'm happy to do it. It's an extra thing that I need to do. It's Baruch Hashem making the mitzvah all the more so, you know? So I drove him to this place. 12 o'clock comes around and he finally comes out again. I'm like, okay, this is a bit ridiculous. It's like 12 p.m. at night. I left my house at 10 p.m. and like I went to get a gift for my grandparents. So like I was like, oh, surely I was going to mitzvah, bottom of mitzvah, but I don't know, whatever it was. Okay, I should have known at that point, but whatever. So I was in there in the car, and he starts like talking to me. He was like, Avi, tzaddik shali, my daughter could be for you. I was like, wow, look at this. I'm wearing shidduch at this. This is like hashgacha protis, you know? This is like the perfect thing ever. And like, I was like, I also happened to be thinking that like this guy is kind of like old and doesn't speak English, so like his daughter's definitely not shaykh. Out of the question, I was like, this is still like, this is the big hashgacha protis. So I'm driving him back. I'm like conversing slightly in Hebrew with him because my Hebrew was still better at that point. And yeah, so he gave me this address that I put into the thing. He had no phone at that point. And so I get to this address, and it's this big apartment block, and he has like whatever it was. I think it was like number 55. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I think it was 55 because the number stuck out in my head. So it was like 55, and so like I look around and like I can't find it anywhere. So I run around to the back of the apartment and I find it was there. So I was like, okay, fine. So I'll drive you around to the back of the apartment. So I drive in there, and I ring the bell to this place, and no one answers. And so he comes out and like we're just like ringing the bell again, still no one answers. So I'm very confused, and it's like 12:15 at night now. So I'm kind of ready to go home. I thought I'd done the best thing, like I was gonna drop him off and then drive home, but like still no one answers. So then I ring number 54, the people below them. I ring, and like after 2-3 rings, someone answers. I'm like, hi, yeah, I've got this guy here, who's living in 55. Is it alright if you open up because no one's answering? They were like, impossible, no one lives there. I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. I checked the guy's book again. It says 55. I was like, no, someone for sure lives there. He's like, no one lives there. Go away. So like, what the heck is going on? This is seriously weird right now. So then I call out my dad at this point because like my Hebrew was so bad that I couldn't explain to him that that people weren't there. So I call out my dad. I'm like, I'm really random story. I'm in a car with someone and they only speak Hebrew and I'm trying to drop them off in a place. But no one's there. Can you tell him, is there another number that we can call? So my dad's like, what the heck are you doing? But sure, okay, fine. So I put him on the phone with him, he explains it. Then he goes through his book, opens out the paper, and he shows like this number in my thing, and he shows me like a card. Like it looked like an Asian massage card or something like that. So he points to that number and points to another thing. It was the same number thing. So I was like, okay, fine. No, sorry. It was 2 different numbers. He was like, he points to this one and then he pointed to the what's called. So I called up that number first. So I called up the number there, and so I called them up. I was like, and like all the while he keeps saying to me, "This is a lokoret, or he was like trying to explain to me that like his wife was ill, and he told me that I'm missing key parts of the story, but he told me that he had brain surgery and like there's a lot of things, and he was limping as well. So like I couldn't really understand exactly what he was saying, but like he was like, "It's a lokoret," like it's not chorus. But I didn't at the point in time. I wasn't really registering what he was saying. So like I called up these people. I'm like, so I think I have like someone here for you downstairs. We're outside number 55. Is it alright if you open up? Are you guys here? And they're like, yeah, sure, send him up. Don't worry, we've been expecting him. I'm like, okay, great, wonderful. And so I'm like, just by the way, can I just ask, who is this? They're like, what do you mean, darling? You called us. You know who it is. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, send your friend up. And like it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I was like, oh my goodness, I'm at, and then I look at his thing and it said on it Bat Zona, which for those who don't speak Hebrew, it's the house of a prostitute. And he kept, now I understand why he's saying a correct, and his wife was not ill. I'm like, oh my goodness. And like I was like, I'm doing the biggest mitzvah ever. I'm taking this guy like home. I'm giving him the opportunity. He doesn't speak a word of English. He doesn't have a place to get there. I'm doing this great God of Rabbi, all because I'm wearing my jacket. And he's taking me to a Bat Zona, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm taking this guy to the biggest Harvey possible. Like, you want me? Like, I couldn't fathom it, and like, I'm really creeped out. I'm shaking. I just don't know what to do, and like, so I like hang up the phone, and like, I get out of the car, call my dad. I was like, well, I don't know. But so now the guy here, and my dad's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I don't know. Just I'm at this random place, and the guy's taking me to this place. I was like, so he's like, okay, we don't deal with these people. Tell him like, just leave him there and drive off. And like, I didn't know what to do, so I tried to explain to him that someone was coming out, and like, I really like know what to do, because like I did now I knew who this guy was. I was like, I didn't know what to do, and like. Somehow I convinced him that they were coming down, I got in my car and just sped off and just like drove away. And I can see in the background the guy like waving like that to me. I'm like, what just happened? And turns out that all because of my nice jacket, I had taken this guy to this place, and it scarred me for a while. I called Shomrim, the people we have in London, to like the Jewish police or whatever, and I told them about all their place, this guy there, and just to check on him because I felt bad because it was like 1 o'clock at that point almost, and like he was sitting outside, and like I told them about this place. I was like, please, can you just sort it out? And so after that, I was like really scarred from wearing my jacket. And still to this day, I don't know the moral of the story. I don't know the moral of the story. If someone knows the moral of the story, b'chavod, please let me know, because it's still one of the many mysteries that I haven't quite worked out. And it took me a long time to like feel comfortable really. Like that was a big identity crisis thing again, because I was like, I put on this jacket just to be used for such an avera, like to be manipulated. That's like, I was manipulating myself, but like it's a very scary thing. And so that was one story that like messed me up, and still to this day I haven't found the moral of the story. But yeah, you stuck around this long, you got a fun story. So thank you for listening. I apologize for however long this was. I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly did not, but this was enjoyable. It was enjoyable. I had a good time. So if you stuck around for this long, please check out my previous episode with Shannon. It was just truly incredible. Check out all the other episodes. We had some really great. If you actually go back and listen to the flipping out in yeshiva, like giving context to flipping out, that I feel like this is going to be like part 4 of that basically. But yeah, this was interesting. So thank you for listening. Have a wonderful night.